Hey everybody, Happy New Year. Let's talk about wind versus avocado trees. Actually, this applies to a lot of fruit trees. Wind, too much of it can be a problem, but a little wind is your friend. In fact, you need wind, little breeze coming and hitting your trees. That's a good thing. They did a study of plants in a greenhouse where there's no wind and no breeze. Those plants struggled. They didn't grow right. They need that little subtle breeze hitting them so their root system can develop stronger and be more vigorous and to be able to meet the challenge of future stronger winds. So this applies to a lot of fruit trees with a few exceptions. In fact, some fruit trees are excellent windbreaks. For example, let me think. Mulberry tree is a fantastic windbreak tree, especially here in Southern California where it holds its leaves for most of the year. Mulberry trees hold their leaves most of the year here, and so they have a very powerful root system, and they provide excellent windbreak to protect other trees and to block the wind. So if you want to think about a windbreak tree that you can actually harvest fruit from, or you can leave the fruit for your critters for the critters to come and eat and avoid the main crop, a mulberry tree is a great idea because mulberry trees make a lot of fruit. Now let's go back to avocados. Avocados are rainforest trees. They're not used to having heavy winds hitting them. They're used to being bunched around each other, protected by each other. I'm standing right now, and right behind me is west. That is west. And if you're in Southern California, most of the time, the wind will come from the west and will hit your trees. In this area, there's a lot of wind. I've never calculated the speed, but I say it's a windy spot. You'll see trees, leaves blowing this way, gusty. Things can get really gusty. So avocado trees, if it gets too gusty, they don't really like that. They can knock the flowers off. It can hit the fruit, can hit the branches and get damaged. Bees won't come to the tree if it's too windy. They won't come and pollinate the flowers. There's a few things that the avocado trees don't like when it comes to wind. But there's of course a few things you can do to protect your avocado tree against the wind. So most of the year the winds come from the west, from off the Pacific Ocean, with the exception of the Santa Ana winds. They come from another direction, and those winds can be pretty damaging. Think of a windy day. We're talking about a gusty day where you could see the leaves and the branches of your trees moving back and forth, getting pushed around. Consider that to be the equivalent of a very hot day. Basically, you have to water your tree extra on really windy days because wind is a desiccant. It desiccates your trees, leaves, and branches. Desiccant, I mean, is a fancy word for saying it dries them up. So on a very windy day, basically, an avocado tree is very sensitive to watering. Just water your avocado tree extra on a windy day, and you can avoid a lot of problems. Let's go look at some avocado trees. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Come on. Okay, so here's an avocado tree. This is the reed avocado tree. And behind me is west. And so this tree gets hit by wind every day, but it's a champ. It can take the wind and it could just pretty much just laughs at the wind. It's not really a big deal for it now, but it was when this tree was younger. When this tree was younger, it needed staking to protect itself against the wind. And a lot of you folks live in open, exposed areas where, the wind can be a problem. It can knock over trees. And I'll show you some things you can do to protect trees against the wind, especially with avocado trees. Because the thing with avocado trees, as most of you probably already know, is that avocado trees have a shallow root system. Its root system is not as aggressive and deep as, let's say, for example, a citrus tree or a fig tree. So it can get knocked over, especially when it's young. And some people will support their tree in a way that can actually hurt the tree long term. If you stake your tree up in a certain style and you use certain materials, you're actually setting up that tree for failure instead of success. You're doing more to hurt the tree than help it. Woo! It is windy today. Man, these trees are getting hit hard. They're getting moved around. I'm sure anyone from Florida is watching this, you're probably laughing, but this is pretty windy for us. It's a different level out in Florida, but these trees get hit pretty hard over here right now. Earlier, the wind was so strong, these branches close to the ground, the trunks were getting bent over, and which makes me think I gotta do a separate video, maybe a video for another time, talking about how to stabilize these trunks or set up your branching structure at an early age to prevent the chance of this tree getting knocked over. Because see this branch right here, it's just going straight up for a few feet. You want low branches to be more stable and have a more stable tree. These are avocado trees getting hit. Look over there, windy. Over there, windy. It's a gusty day today. All right, everybody, really windy day today. I'm glad we chose today to film this because on a day like this, the wind can and will knock over young avocado trees, small avocado trees. Kind of like the tree we're gonna work on right here. You see this one? That tree can get knocked over by the wind. It's a young tree. I planted it last year. It's about 2 or 3 feet tall, and its root system is not established enough to be able to support itself on its own. Now, when people support their trees, stake their trees, they use certain materials that, in my opinion, aren't the best. 99% of the time, when you go to a nursery, you're gonna get tape like this. They're gonna use this kind of tape to support trees. This is called flagging tape or nursery tape. This tape is good for some practices, but the problem with this tape is that it does not bend. It does not break. It can girdle a tree, it can hurt a tree, it can damage a tree because there's no flex with this tree. It has absolutely no flex. I've seen trees grow their trunks around this tape and that eventually it hurts and damages the tree. This tape is not friendly to trees overall in the long run. Think of it as like a container that a tree's trunk, as it gets bigger and thicker, it can't break past this. And it's like it becomes like an elephant in a phone booth, and it just keeps trying to rip past it, but it can't because this tape is really strong. Again, it has no flex. So I don't use this tape when supporting trees. And when I go to a nursery and I buy a tree, I remove this tape immediately and I use a different kind of tape. Our old friend, our good friend, the grafting tape. Grafting tape is different. This is parafilm grafting tape. It has flex. It will bend as the tree's trunk grows. As the tree's trunk grows, this will bend and it can break. And it's a fantastic tool to help support trees because of its flexibility. And as the tree's trunk thickens and gets stronger, it will break this tape and then the tree will be strong enough to support itself. So I use this. And then what I always use is wood stake, a wood support. I don't use metal supports. Why not use metal? Well, think of it. Metal, something that holds heat. The sun hits it. Metal gets hot. It'll burn any trunk that is touching the metal. It can burn it because it gets so hot by the sun. But wood does not hold that kind of heat. And that's why I use wood. And in this case, this is bamboo. And this thickness is really good. You don't want it too thick. This is about 1 inch thickness. And nothing too thin. If it's too thin, it won't be able to support itself against the wind. So something that's too thick could be like a 2x4. That's a little too thick. That's not something that's helpful for a tree. So something like this is perfect. This is like 3, maybe 4 feet long. And we'll bring it here. I'm going to try to get as close to the trunk as possible. I'm going to get my hammer. I'm going to hammer it in. I'm going to go as deep as that I feel comfortable with. That feels sturdy. If it doesn't feel sturdy, just hammer it more until you feel like the stake is into the ground solidly. I think I went down a foot. I've already gone down a foot. Yeah, easily. A foot down is usually the rule of thumb. That's when you have a really strong hold into the earth. And now, not this, but this, our grafting tape is going to hold the tree and the stake together. Let me break some tape, real easy. And I'm going to wrap this trunk around this stake. And I'm gonna do a few layers. I'm gonna stretch the tape. This is just like grafting. Just like when you're grafting, you wanna do a few layers of tape there. And I'm only gonna use one roll of tape. A lot of nurseries put tape at the top, in the middle, at the bottom. They do several applications of tape. It's not necessary. I only do one at the top. That's the only one that's really necessary. Again, my rule of thumb, the less amount of staking, the less amount of support is better, because you want your tree to be able to support itself as soon as possible and as fast as possible. You want it to have a strong root system, develop its root system as strong and as fast as possible. And the way it does that is it gets challenged. You know, like when you're lifting weights in the gym or you're going running, you're challenging yourself. And by challenging yourself, you get stronger. Same as the tree. The tree needs to get thrown around by the wind. And as it gets thrown around by the wind, it challenges its root systems to entrench itself deeper and stronger. And that way it can hold itself in the future as it gets into a bigger tree. All right. So that's how I stake trees. And I hope you liked what you just saw. And if you did, give me a like and then subscribe and then leave me a comment. Let me know how your trees are doing. Happy New Year. I have more videos coming up. I'll do more videos about how to structure your tree so that it can be strong against the wind. All right. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.